Break it down. The pounding shook the walls like thunder inside my chest. Open up, this is our son's apartment. Their voices, my parents, filled the narrow hallway outside. Each blow against the door echoed through me, every sound dragging up a lifetime of swallowed words and buried memories. I stood barefoot on the cool tile, morning light spilling across the floor like quiet judgment. For a second, I almost didn't move. Then I exhaled, unlatched the lock, and pulled the door open. They froze. My mother, still gripping a crowbar, her lipstick cracked at the corners. My father's face twisted between disbelief and fury. Behind them, my brother lingered, pretending to look worried, but his eyes were bright with something meaner. "What is this?" Mom demanded. I didn't answer. I just held up the thick stack of papers trembling in my hands, bank statements, lease documents, and one heavy folder stamped property transfer agreement. My name sat bold and clean on every page. "The proof," I said quietly, "that this apartment you think belongs to your son is mine. Every bill, every payment, every signature." For a moment no one spoke. My father's jaw flexed, rage shaking his voice. "You stole from your family, Lena." I met his eyes. "No, Dad. I just stopped giving." The silence that followed was sharp, heavy, almost holy. Mom lowered the crowbar slowly, realization creeping across her face like dawn. "You ungrateful child," she snapped. "We raised you. We paid for everything you have." I almost laughed. "You mean the things I worked for? The double shifts since college? Or that mortgage you forgot to pay when I was 21, the one I covered so we wouldn't lose the house?" The papers rustled in my shaking hands. Each page whispered a truth they'd ignored for years. "You can't speak to us like that," Mom hissed. "We're your parents." "I know," I said softly. "That's why I kept forgiving you long after you stopped deserving it." Behind them, my brother's expression faltered. "You made this about money," he muttered. "You made it about ownership," I said. "I just claimed what was already mine." I set the folder on the hallway table between us. "I didn't steal anything, Mom. You lied about who bought it. You told me to trust you. You used my credit, my savings, my name. So tell me again, how is this his apartment?" Her face drained of color. My father turned sharply toward my brother. "Is that true?" He stammered. She offered to help. It was supposed to be temporary." 7 years isn't temporary," I said flatly. No one spoke. A neighbor's TV hummed faintly through the wall. I looked at them, 3 people who'd once defined my world, and felt something click into place. "You came here to break down my door to prove you still had power," I told them. "But the only thing broken here is your illusion of control." Then I closed the door. Slowly, firmly. For the first time, it felt like my door. By evening, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. First Mom. Then Dad. Then numbers I didn't recognize. Mom's voicemail was the first. "Sweetheart, we didn't mean to upset you. You've always been too sensitive. Please come talk before this gets worse." The second was colder. Dad's voice, clipped and deliberate. "Return the property documents before we involve lawyers." The third came from my brother. "You think this makes you a hero? You'll regret embarrassing us." I poured myself a glass of cheap wine, set the phone face down, and sat by the window. The city lights blurred like melted gold outside. The hum of the fridge filled the quiet. For once, there was no shouting, no guilt, no crisis waiting for me to fix. For years I believed peace came from forgiveness. Tonight I knew better. It came from ending the performance. A soft knock startled me. It was Theo, my upstairs neighbor, holding a half-eaten pizza box. "You okay?" he asked. "Heard some drama earlier." "Family stuff," I said with a small smile. "I'm fine now." He studied me for a moment, then handed me a slice. "Fine never really means fine. Just don't let them drag you back into chaos." "I won't," I promised. When he left, I leaned against the door and whispered to no one, "I'm done being the apology for other people's choices." Outside, thunder rolled across the city, deep and distant. Tomorrow, I'd go to the bank to finalize the paperwork. Tonight, I'd sleep with both locks secure, not out of fear, but gratitude for what I'd finally shut out. When I opened the door the next morning, the sky was the same color as wet concrete, and my mother stood on the other side like a ghost I hadn't invited back. Her lipstick was smudged, her eyes swollen from sleeplessness. "You're destroying this family," she said quietly. "I'm setting boundaries," I replied. "There's a difference." She tried to step inside, but I didn't move. The air between us felt like glass, fragile, ready to shatter. "Lena," she began softly, "we made sacrifices too. You just don't remember them." "Oh, I remember," I said, my voice calm but cutting. "I remember working double shifts so your precious son could go on that European exchange. I remember you telling me to stay quiet so he could look successful. I remember paying off your credit card bill so your score wouldn't drop." Her face twisted between guilt and anger. "You've always been dramatic. This attitude will ruin you." "You mean ruin your control," I said. Her eyes flickered. "Your brother's business is struggling. The least you could do is transfer the apartment to his name. You don't even need it." That sentence broke something in me that had been bending for years. "Mom," I said evenly, "you taught me one thing: family only counts when it's convenient. So no, I don't need to, and neither of you get to decide what I keep anymore." Her tears didn't move me this time. I'd seen them used like currency too many times before. As she turned to leave, she muttered, "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I whispered. "But at least it'll be my regret, not yours." When the door closed, the silence wasn't victory. It was heavy, thick, like standing in the ruins of a war I hadn't realized I'd already won. By midweek, that silence started to crack, not from guilt, but from the ripple of exposure. My brother, Oliver, took to social media, posting vague quotes about betrayal from within and family snakes. His friends, many of them my old classmates, filled the comments with sympathy. I read every word, each one a tiny cut. But this time I didn't bleed. Then came a call from Aunt May. "Sweetheart, what's going on? Everyone's saying you cheated your brother out of his apartment." "May," I said softly, "you know that apartment. I bought it. Every cent came from my savings." She hesitated. "They're saying you're unstable, that you're making things up." "Of course they are," I replied. That's what gaslighting sounds like: light, polished, rehearsed. That night, I spread every document across the dining table: deed, receipts, wire transfers, each sheet its own form of protection. Proof of the life I'd quietly built while they convinced everyone I was just renting space in their story. Theo stopped by while I was sorting through the papers. "Building a case?" he asked. "More like protecting one," I said. He smiled knowingly. "Good. People like that only stop when you make truth louder than their lies." His words stayed with me. Friday came with a message from my father: family meeting. Saturday. Mandatory. Not a question. Not a request. A command, the way it had always been. I almost deleted it, but something in me wanted to face them one last time, not as the obedient daughter, but as the woman they'd never expected me to become. Saturday arrived gray and cold. Their house, the one I'd helped save years ago, looked smaller now, stripped of its grandeur. Mom opened the door with a forced smile. "Let's keep this civil," she said. Inside, the dining table gleamed like polished armor. Oliver leaned back in his chair, arms folded, that smug grin I knew too well. "We can settle this quietly, Lena," he said. "You sign over the deed, and we'll pretend none of this ever happened." I placed my folder of documents on the table. "You're right," I said evenly. "Let's settle this quietly." When I flipped open the first page, color drained from their faces. What waited inside wasn't compromise, it was truth, notarized and final. Dad snatched the papers, his knuckles white. This can't be right." "It's all legal," I said calmly. "Purchased under my name. Paid through my account. Signed and sealed." He turned the pages, searching for a loophole that didn't exist. Mom sat frozen, her eyes darting between me and Oliver. "You tricked us," she whispered. "No," I said. "You just underestimated me." Oliver slammed his fist on the table. "You think a few papers make you better than us?" I met his glare. "No, just freer." He scoffed. "You've always been jealous of me." I almost laughed. Jealous of what? The debt, the excuses, the fake confidence? His jaw clenched. "You've ruined everything. Everyone's saying you turned against your own family." I leaned forward, voice low but sharp. "I didn't turn against family. I just stopped being your safety net." Mom's voice trembled. "Please, Lena." We can't afford to lose that apartment. Oliver's business is failing. He needs collateral for a loan. Something inside me went very still. That strange calm that comes when pain finally burns itself out. That's not my problem anymore. Dad rose, face red, veins pulsing at his temple. You're selfish. For 10 years, I said, meeting his eyes, I gave. Paid. Forgave. You called it love, but it was survival. And I'm done surviving. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Oliver laughed bitterly. You'll regret this. You're nothing without us. I gathered my folder and stood. Then it's a good thing I finally found out who I am. When I walked out, I didn't look back. Their house, their judgment, their noise, all of it faded in my rearview mirror. For the first time, the road ahead belonged entirely to me. The first week after the confrontation felt almost unreal, like waking from a nightmare but still finding bruises on your skin. My apartment, once cluttered with echoes of their demands, was silent now. Too silent. Sometimes I caught myself reaching for my phone, expecting another call, another manipulation dressed as concern. Nothing came. Until it did. One evening, I was returning from work when I saw the notice taped to my door. Property dispute pending. Court summons enclosed. My legs went weak. I tore the envelope open right there in the hallway, my pulse pounding. They were suing me. Not just challenging the ownership of the apartment, claiming fraud, saying I'd stolen funds, falsified documents. It felt like a punch to the chest. I sank to the floor, papers trembling in my hands, my breath coming shallow. They'd actually done it. After everything, they were willing to destroy me publicly just to take what wasn't theirs. For a few minutes, I just sat there, dizzy, staring at the neat black letters that declared war. Then I laughed quiet, broken. I should have seen it coming. My family never fought fair. The next morning, I met Theo at a cafe near the courthouse. The smell of burnt espresso and rain mixed in the air. He looked at me like he already knew. They filed, didn't they? I nodded. They're accusing me of fraud. Theo exhaled, leaning back. Classic projection. When people lose control, they rewrite reality. I tried to smile, but my throat ached. They're rewriting my life. Then make sure your version is louder. He helped me contact a lawyer, an older woman named Harper, with silver hair, sharp eyes, and a voice like calm steel. After I explained everything, she said, they're counting on you to panic. Don't. They have no proof, and you have receipts. We'll win this. But she didn't know what it felt like to face the people who raised you in court as enemies. The hearing was scheduled 3 weeks later. Those days blurred together, lawyer meetings, sleepless nights, constant replaying of memories I'd tried so hard to bury. I remembered my mother sitting on the edge of my bed years ago, saying, "We're family, Lena. Family means trust." Now she was signing papers to call me a liar. When the court date arrived, I wore a simple black suit. My hands shook as I waited outside the courtroom. Then I saw them, my parents, Oliver, even Aunt May standing together like a tableau of betrayal. Mom avoided my eyes. Oliver smirked. Dad whispered something to him, and they both laughed. Theo placed a hand on my shoulder. You ready? No. But I nodded anyway. Inside, everything smelled of polished wood and cold justice. My lawyer's voice was steady as she presented the documents, every payment record, every legal receipt. My name on each one. Then their lawyer began his speech, painting me as an emotionally unstable woman who had manipulated her family for money. Every word hit like a slap. At one point, Mom started crying softly. I could tell it was rehearsed. When it was my turn to speak, the judge asked gently, "Ms. Reed, is there anything you'd like to say?" I stood up, palms sweating. The courtroom blurred for a moment, then focused sharply. "Yes," I said, my voice shaking but clear. "I just want the truth on record. For years, I supported my family. I paid bills they hid, loans they denied, debts they blamed on bad luck. I stayed quiet because I thought love meant sacrifice. But love isn't supposed to feel like silence." I looked straight at my parents. "I'm not stealing anything. I'm just keeping what I earned." For the first time, Mom couldn't look away. When it was over, I walked out before the judge even finished his closing remarks. I couldn't bear another minute in that room filled with ghosts pretending to be people. Outside, rain had started falling. Theo caught up with me. "Hey," he said softly. "You did great." "I feel sick," I whispered. That's what healing feels like sometimes. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound from the street made my chest tighten. What if they came after me again? What if the lies spread faster than the truth? Then, at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think you've won? Watch what happens next." I froze. The profile photo was blank, but I didn't need to guess who sent it. For a long time, I just stared at the screen, heart hammering. Then I deleted the message, locked my phone, and whispered into the dark. Not this time. The next morning, my lawyer called. "They're panicking," Harper said. "They want to settle privately before the court issues a ruling." "Why?" I asked. "Because the judge saw through them." "You've got nothing to worry about." Nothing to worry about. The phrase echoed in my mind, hollow and unbelievable. Still, that evening, I went to the park near my apartment. The air smelled of rain and wet grass. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace, thin, fragile, but real. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A man's voice. Cold. "You don't know who you're dealing with, Lena. You should have stayed quiet." The line went dead. My fingers trembled as I lowered the phone. The wind picked up, rustling the trees. Somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after that call. Every creak in the hallway made me flinch. Every shadow on the wall looked like a threat waiting to unfold. I kept the lights on, phone by the bed, documents locked in a drawer. But fear only lasts so long before it turns into anger. By the 4th morning, something in me snapped. I wasn't going to live like a fugitive in my own home. I called Harper, told her about the message. She insisted on filing a police report, and for the first time, I agreed. "They're losing control," she said calmly. "And when people like that lose control, they try to scare you back into silence. Don't give them what they want." So I didn't. A few days later, the court officially ruled in my favor. Case dismissed. I stared at the words until they blurred, half expecting them to vanish if I blinked. But they didn't. I was free legally, financially. But freedom isn't the same as peace. The news spread fast. My mother didn't call, but Aunt May did, voice shaking. "They're saying you humiliated them in court. Your father hasn't spoken to anyone for days." I closed my eyes. "He didn't speak to me for years, May. This isn't new." She sighed. "You know, for what it's worth. I think you did the right thing." They needed someone to tell them no. After the call, I sat on the floor surrounded by silence that finally felt like mine. Not punishment, just space. Then one afternoon, as I was sorting through old boxes, I found a photo album buried at the bottom. Family vacations, birthdays, Christmas mornings. My mother's arms around me, my brother's grin, my father's proud smile. For a moment, I felt that familiar ache, the longing for a version of them that might have loved me differently. I traced the edges of one photo. We looked happy. Maybe we were once. Maybe we believed we were. That night, I burned the duplicates I didn't need anymore. Not out of hate, out of release. The next morning, Theo stopped by with coffee. "You look lighter," he said, setting the cups down. "I think I am," I replied. He studied me. "So what now?" I thought about that. For years, my life had revolved around survival, proving I was worthy of something that was never really mine to earn. Now, I said slowly, I build something new. Something that doesn't start with them. He smiled. "That sounds like peace." "It's not peace yet," I said, smiling back. "But it's close." We spent the morning packing away the last of the court papers, labeling them neatly in a box marked closed. The sound of the tape sealing it felt final, like the soft click of a door shutting behind me. But closure doesn't mean erasure. It means learning how to live with the echoes without letting them run your life. That evening, I went for a walk near the river. The air smelled of rain again, the same kind as the day everything fell apart. But now it felt different, clean, not heavy. I stood by the railing, watching the water move under the streetlights. It kept flowing past the city, past the noise, past everything that tried to stop it. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. A new message. My heart jumped before I even looked. But it wasn't a threat this time. Just a single text from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy now." I stared at it for a long moment, then typed back 2 words. "Finally am." Then I blocked the number, slipped my phone away, and watched the river shimmer under the lights. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something, an apology, a reckoning, a rescue. The story wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. And as I walked home through the quiet streets, the rain started again, soft, steady, cleansing. I didn't run. I let it fall.